Hello everybody, this is Richard Blackstone, and I help people who are on an inner journey of personal transformation and self-actualization to take that wild adventure that we're on and use the wisdom and knowledge that we gain from that journey and use it to create our lives consciously the way we really want it to be, so that you can be, do, and have whatever you want in your life, and especially in the areas of abundance, health, and harmony. Now, is everybody up for that? I know I am. So what I've done is I've created 3 foundation pillars that I live by every day that answer every question you have about life. And I'm going to explain those pillars to you today so that you can use them in the creation of your own life. Now, I have to tell you that my life wasn't always like this. In fact, for the first 40 years of my life or so, I was living very unconsciously, what I now describe as sleepwalking through life. And I just kind of believed that life was happening to me, and I had to react to the people, events, and circumstances in my life. Now, does anybody relate to that? And so it was a very frustrating way to live life because I didn't know that I was actually creating my life as I was going along. I just believed that life was happening, and then I just had to react to whatever was happening. But now that I understand these 3 foundation pillars, I've shifted my entire belief system out of this idea of fear and separation, the idea that I'm separate from all of life, into this belief system that says I am one with all of life, and that is a love-based belief system about life. And when you do that, when you make that shift out of fear and into love, everything changes in your life. And that's what these 3 foundation pillars are all about. So let's take a look at the 3 foundation pillars so that you can use them in your daily life beginning today. Now, the first foundation pillar is this concept called love. Oh, love. Don't you love it? I know I do. I am so in love with love. But you know, it's not that romantic love that we see on the movies or television. What I'm talking about here is unconditional love. And why unconditional love? Because unconditional love is the core of who you are. It's the glue that holds the universe together. And it is the essence that is what this source of all existence is made up of. You know, this source that we commonly call God is made up entirely of unconditional love. And when you align with unconditional love, when you make your choices and decisions in your day-to-day life based on the idea of unconditional love, then you are aligning with source energy. You are aligning with the very energy that creates universes. And it empowers you in such a way that you can create your own life in the exact same manner, easily and effortlessly, just like nature. So love, and I'm talking about unconditional love, is our first foundation pillar. And if you truly want to immerse yourself into changing your life and using the foundation pillars, then the way you would do that is to begin to love yourself unconditionally. That means no conditions on loving yourself. Okay, so our second foundation pillar is right along with this idea of love, and it's this concept that I call oneness. The idea that we are one with all of life. And this idea of oneness is pretty easy to understand at the higher levels of consciousness. You know, when we understand that everything comes from one source, then everything in life is interconnected because everything is related to that source. And how is it related? Well, it's related because we are a 3-part being made up of mind, body, and spirit. And the spirit aspect of our beingness is totally connected at all times to source energy. So this spirit that is part of our being is eternally connected to source energy. It is never separate from the source. And when you understand that at a deep level, you realize that you are eternally connected to source energy, and therefore you are aligned with source energy at all times as you choose. And it just changes the game. Because, you know, when I first got on my journey, And I got this concept of oneness, and I went, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I've heard this all in my life, and intellectually it just made sense to me. But I didn't really understand it until I got that idea that we're all interconnected, that all of life is interconnected, and moved it from my intellect down to my heart. And once I got it in my heart and I started living my life as if I was connected to all of life, as if I was totally connected to source energy, then everything shifted in my life, and my life smoothed out in amazing and dramatic ways. And it'll do that for you too. And so we have this idea of oneness that we can kind of get. Yes, we're all one at the higher levels of consciousness. That's kind of esoteric, but it makes sense. But how do we relate to that in a physical sense? Well, actually, we're all one in a very real physical sense as well. And how do we know that? Well, our quantum physicists are telling us the exact same things that mystics have told us for centuries. You know, we assigned our scientists the task of going out and then discovering what is life all about? What is the bottom line of life? And they've come back with an amazing revelation. And what they're telling us now is that there is no such thing as solid matter. They're telling us that everything in the universe, you know, the stars, the galaxies, the planets, the mountains, the ocean, the air we breathe, you and I are all made up of one thing. One thing. And our scientists tell us this one thing is called energy. And what they call energy, I call unconditional love. But it doesn't matter what you call it. The reality is that we are all one and under this umbrella of source energy. We are all interconnected with life. And isn't that beautiful? Because when you realize that, you understand that everything you do affects all of life. And so everything you do, how do you do that? Well, that's our third foundation pillar. And it's the one I love the most, the one I love to play with the most, and the one I love to teach the most. It's this idea of creation. This idea that you are creating your life as you go along, whether you know about it or not. And so the idea, of course, is to create your life consciously, the way you really want it to be, right? Instead of unconsciously, like I was when I was sleepwalking through life. Because we are creating our lives as we go along. And so how do we do that? Well, once again, it's very simple, three-step formula. The three-step formula of creation is thought, word, and deed. Everything starts with a thought. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, man can achieve. So all you have to do is to orient your thoughts to the experiences that you want to have. Now that sounds pretty simple, and actually it is. There's only one problem. And that problem is what all the avatars have told us throughout history. You know, avatars like Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, Abraham, they all told us the same thing. They said the only real problem in life is this idea of ignorance. You know, if you're ignorant about who you really are, and if you're ignorant about the rules of the game of life on planet Earth, then you will suffer the natural consequences of that ignorance. Now, it doesn't mean you're stupid or anything. It just means that you don't know what you don't know. And so the cure for this is a deep understanding of this idea of who you really are. This idea that you are a three-part being of mind, body, spirit. And because of that, you are eternally connected to source energy. This idea that once you understand the rules of the game of life, you can play life full out and get whatever you want and enjoy the abundance, health, and harmony that are your birthrights. So those are the three foundation pillars. I want you to go out and use them today. And as always, and in all ways, live in love. Thank you very much.